just being straight to the point, like the song White Peugeot, I wrote that song about a week and a half ago. Okay. You remember this because I called you up on the phone and I said, I had these lyrics and you're like, what the hell is this?
I asked you what a Peugeot is. I was
You
like, "Yeah, it sounds really cool, but what is that?"
looking back at me with sore eyes. No love, it's toxic. Yeah, and then I had to like explain to you that White Peugeot is based. My dad's like first-ish car here in the States was a 1964 White Peugeot. Turns
64?
It was a 64, and it turns out that my dad's car was extremely rare. There was like only 16,000 sold in this country. So if you would have held onto that car, it would have been worth about $40,000 today
I
if it
need
was in good
to
condition. Yeah.
Google it and see what a Peugeot looks like.
Well, I can. I'm gonna send you over the picture right now of my dad's white Peugeot. But that basically was the inspiration for the song. And I last night was just tripping balls, and I was like, you know what? I want to put the song together. And guess what, Carissa? What did I do?
You put it together. I really like it. I said I could hear it in a shopping mall. Okay, how do you spell Peugeot?
That is an excellent question. I wrote the song, and I don't even know how do you spell the word Peugeot.
I love that.
Oh my god, hold on, let me see. I believe it's P-E-O. I'm gonna fuck this up. P-E-O-U. No, now it's just
Who's
jibber jabber.
the who made that car? GM?
No, Peugeot.
Oh, but okay, so
That's a
what's
name.
the make and model?
I don't remember. I think it was something four something. I think it's 404714. So Peugeot is a French car brand that was in the States until like 1992, and then they pulled out. The thing for my dad was when he came here to the States, my dad came from Morocco, and the part of the country that my dad was from was the French province. So growing up, my dad was around Peugeots, Citroëns, a lot of French and European cars. So when he came to the States and was getting his first car, it's kind of ironic because a lot of my dad's cars was a Peugeot, an Audi, Volkswagen. My dad was never really into American cars until later on.
I see what you mean. I finally found it on Google. It's really cool. But
Did you
yeah, the
did
the
you get the picture I
model
sent you?
not yet. I was looking at I've got this too much glare there, but
Way too much glare.
I see
I
what you mean where they were numbers. The model of the car, was a number. So there's like a 403, 404, 40 something dash 15. Yeah, I see that. That's cool.
I think it was actually to represent the type of engine that was in the car, as well as the CC, how much power came out of the engine. Uh, the thing people don't realize, especially as an American, we're very used to things being named with these extraordinary things. When you go to other countries such as Europe and France, it's just like that's what it is. It's a
They don't have to
it's no, it's like
make everything more exciting here.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like café noir, black
New
coffee.
new
Or
cafe.
yeah, like it's just
Yeah.
straight to the point. And here in the States, like, we have all these fancy and schmancy words for things, but that was one of the things that I always loved about my dad. And the culture that he came from is just, even down to the cars, it's just simple, it's elegant, it's relatable.
It looks like a pretty sturdy car, you know?
It was a piece of shit. As far as my dad told me, he had to scrap the car because the transmission went out. But yeah,
Oh,
yeah, one of those. Yeah, it was the '60s. You know, people were smoking cigarettes while they were putting oil into cars. They didn't care about safety
that's fucking crazy. I wonder how many people just, like, blew up.
because of a cigarette while putting transmission fluid. Oh, probably dozens.
Like,
Dozens.
I've seen it in movies. You know, like in Zoolander, they, like, flick the cigarette and, like, all of his friends, like, die because they had, like, a gasoline fight at the
I
they
know you're talking.
acted yeah.
I know you're talking about. Yeah, I've watched Zoolander. It is hilarious.
Didn't
It is so hilarious.
I had you watch Zoolander when you came to visit because I was like, "You
Yes.
haven't seen it?" I was like, "Holy shit, we could just laugh for a half hour," and I tell so many Zoolander, like, jokes that I was like, "You'll never get my jokes if you don't watch it," like so, yeah, merman pop. I'm a merman. Amen.
Zoolander is just one of those movies where, like, when you're dealing with a person like Ben Still, first of all, like Ben Stiller now doesn't really act anymore. He just produces, and he actually makes really good shows. Like he
I
makes really good,
haven't. Yeah, he's a I mean, he's very talented. He comes from a
very
family of
talented.
talented people. I haven't seen him in anything recently.
He doesn't really. I don't think he acts that much these days. I think he primarily does producing, and he does a lot of TV shows. I think he's done movies as well, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, they put out a new Zoolander not too long ago.
I'm not
But
watching
yeah,
it.
when I look at I mean, I guess it was a while ago, but when I look here, yeah, it looks like he's an executive producer for a lot of TV series right now.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Racking in
mean,
the
and he's
change,
got
honey.
a lot of them going on as a producer.
He's a
Dinner in
hustler.
America, Have a Good Trip,
Poker
Celebrity
face.
Escape Room, Friendsgiving, Severance, In the Dark, High Desert. Trying to see the last thing he was actually, like, acting in.
High Desert and Poker Face are new shows that are on Peacock. They're really good. The one that's in Poker Face is really great. You would love this. I love I love crime series. I love murder mysteries and thrillers. It's like one of my favorite genres because, like we were talking about this earlier, it's kind of like a movie puzzle. And Poker Face is the actress that plays in Russian Doll.
Yeah, she I liked her a lot because she was in one of my favorite movies, which is called Detroit Rock City. She plays the disco girl, and that's, like, where I started to get to know her, and she'd been gone for a long time, like, she
She
was, like, a
had.
'90s actor, she acted as a teenager, and then I'd never seen her again, but then she came back in Orange Is the New Black,
Oh
was the
my
first time
god,
I
she
saw her
was
back.
so good. She was
Hot.
so fucking good. And she's a type of actress, no shit, like she's not super attractive by any means, but that's not what makes her a really good actor. And that's what I wanted to bring up with. What I think makes her a great actor is whenever she plays her roles, she plays that character. Like you
Yeah,
get
she's very
into it.
emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
actually got, like,
draws
a little
you.
bit of a chill thinking about how emotional she can be.
Mm. Ugh, I'm gonna Google
That's
this
how
right now.
she was in the movie that I saw her in too, and then I feel like I saw her in another one too, kinda in between where she
Natasha Lyonne. That's what her name is. Natasha Lyonne.
I can't remember. There's another one that I love her a lot in, but, you know, Orange Is the
Let me
New
see.
Black is when she won me over again. But yeah, she'd always had that big fluffy hair. And I never watched Russian Doll. I don't know. It never, like, pulled me in, but I like her, you know? So what, you said she's in High Desert or she's in
No, no, no. So High Desert is an interesting series. It revolves around this woman, and I don't want to give out any spoilers, but
Yeah.
she's like almost slash psychologically, mentally not well, but at the same time very clever, very smart. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a really great show that would have been made in the 70s if Nixon didn't fuck everything up and made drugs illegal. That's the best way I can explain High Desert. It's a really great show. It's put together really well. One thing I'll tell you this straight up. One thing I have been noticing lately is there's a lot of artistic TV shows that are coming out, and I think it's because of the writers' strike. I think finally writers, producers, directors, designers, they're all realizing like enough is enough. Like fuck this shit. We want to make something that's beautiful, creative. You feel
Yeah,
me on this?
totally. Well, I mean, over the past 10 years, things have really moved to television. I mean, I noticed that around, 2012 is
Yeah,
when
yeah.
television started to have as much production quality as a movie. And a lot of people
Like
who
Suits.
are
You remember
in the
when Suits came
union.
out?
For me, it was Mad Men was
Oh, okay. Yeah,
when
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
felt that television started to become very serious. And then I think there's just different examples of things that were really big money makers, like Breaking Bad. People realized like, wow, we can make a lot of money off of television. And then it
Walking
was
Dead
like,
was
Walking
another
Dead,
one.
oh yeah, huge.
Still
Yeah,
going.
those are AMC, so I think AMC was a big game changer. And, like, remember, AMC was, like, not shit. All they did was show, like, old movies all the time, and then all of a sudden, they invested in these TV shows, and
Duke
everything
Knight.
changed for
Do you
them, you
remember
know?
Duke Knight?
I
Remember
didn't
Duke
see that
Knight?
one. What was the
You
other
know,
one you said right before? Suits? I didn't see Suits either.
well, Suits was another one because you see, we forget this, but in the 2010s, we started to see shows that started to show us the darker layers of our government. These types of shows that showed CIA operatives being who they are. Some of these people doing illegal things, corruption, things that happen in the government. For
It
example,
reminds
within
me of House of Cards.
right, exactly. So you have all of these. You have all of these shows starting to pop up throughout the 2010s, and it goes to show you that a lot of what makes films, TV shows is people, what audience wants. Because in the end of the day, yes, it's all about profits. We want to make something that's going to make us money. But if you keep on shoving crap people's down their throats, that's just the same garbage over and over again. There's no profits. So
Well,
being
I
less
think that,
cautious.
like,
Yeah.
we as people would like to know the secrets of our government, you know? So, like, watching those TV shows kinda gives you this feeling that you know what's going on because you're
Mhm.
getting, like, the inside scoop or something, but it's only the inside scoop of the show, But it gives you this idea that I know what's going on, kinda like it's a thing that we want. We want to know the inside story. We
I
want
think
to know the
there is
background.
some. I mean, there is some kind of truth to it. It's not all, fiction. There is a darker layer to the onion, especially when dealing with those kind of things. And it's the same thing when it kind of exposed us to the opiate crisis. There was depictions of how opiates were killing, and showed that again, all of this is fake. But when people get interested into these things,
Mm.
right?
Oh, man, Ozarks was great.
Oh, Ozark was, and it was,
Well,
and they
yeah.
canceled it. Why did they do that?
I
Why?
don't it was a good show,
It was a
man.
good show. It was.
My sister
Did too
got really,
soon.
really into Dexter. I know a lot of people that was one of the first ones that was, like, a big following, people loved that show.
I watched one
I
episode.
never got into it. I don't
I
like that
watched.
shit.
I didn't like it either. I after one episode, I was like, "This is you're
Gross?
ask you're asking some sicko to sit there with a notepad and a ballpoint pen and write down how he's going to murder his next victim." That's just how the show felt to me, and I don't like that. I don't like when a show is so directive. And I liked Breaking Bad, even though it was
Yeah.
the same kind of thing. But
Ugh, it was
it
it
bothers me.
There were a lot of good things about Breaking
There
Bad.
was.
I like
Yeah.
the connection between the 2 characters. I think that it was really cool to see 2 totally different people and how they interact with each other. I mean, there were all kinds of reasons to like Breaking Bad. What else was I thinking of that was, like, kind of a really big deal around that same time? I don't know, but I do know that Game of Thrones changed everything. And
Fantasy porn.
what I wanna say about TV shows is that I think when I was younger, there was definitely like, before this whole TV show thing happened, there were moments where they would try and shove a whole story into a 2-hour-long movie, and you would miss all kinds of stuff, and it just feels, like, rushed and, like, whatever, and you don't get to know everyone. In a TV show, you've got, like, 8 episodes, 8 hours of story, and honestly, it can be much more enjoyable, like, the way that they're gonna do the Harry Potter series, I hope that, like,
I'm
they're
so I'm
they're
so looking
able to,
forward.
like, go into more detail, tell more story,
Well, they're gonna
develop more
have to.
characters. They have to, but, like,
They have
also
to,
they get the
100%.
time to. And I think
Right.
that, like, a lot of our stories that we watch, a lot of movies, TV shows are written as books, so there's a lot of detail there that gets passed over, turning
Because
it
it's
into
made
a
into a
movie.
movie, right.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't ever want movie theaters to close. That definitely is a fear of mine because, like, it's a huge love of mine,
It's just a
but
different
I
it's a
could
different
see.
it's a
Yeah.
I honestly think it's just a different approach to how films are made compared to how television series are. Look, to be honest with you, I feel that Harry Potter should have never been made into a movie series. It makes more sense as a television series cuz just Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone. If you took 10 episodes you would need 12. I would, yeah, you probably need about like 12 episodes. And they don't have to be super long because remember, the Philosopher's Stone, Sorcerer's Stone is not that big. It's pretty small compared to the rest of the series. But just imagine how much more detail you can get in the, right, like the 12 episodes
Mhm.
compared to the one movie that was about 2 hours.
Well, and I feel like they build the set, they get everything going. That's the other thing that I wanted to say is that, like, when I first moved out to LA,
Right.
a lot of people were working in movies and in the union. They're all union, people, and then all of a sudden union people were all working on TV shows. And it was really great because it's longer, more steady work. And so you get to work with the same people for a longer period of time, and so, like, the set is built up and they get to use it more and, like, that kinda thing or whatever. But I the sitcom is still important. There still needs to be both. All TV shows don't need to turn into big dramatic productions. Like, we can still have Big Bang Theory.
It's
It's
very,
still very
it's
enjoyable for people.
but it's very hard to make a sitcom the way that they were made because today, unfortunately, people are like so sensitive about every little thing. It's not even normal. It's like, oh my god, he's so racist. He pointed at a person that was slightly colored. Ah, so there's that problem. You can't do. It's just reality. You can't do very
Well,
real comedy
how
because
many times do you watch Friends and find it offensive?
I don't, but you'd be
I
surprised how
know.
many people do.
I don't know. I haven't. There are some things that I notice every once in a while, but for the most part, I don't see a whole lot of offensive things that happen on the like, I watched Seinfeld. I think maybe I caught, like, 1 or 2 things where it's like, "Oh my god, you couldn't say that," these days, but for the most part, I don't catch a whole lot of stuff that wouldn't be accepted.
You see,
Yeah.
we're viewing this from our perspective, but if you were a Hollywood executive of Time Warner or Sony Pictures, and you're being approached, which is with this television series. Now, you're not an artist; you're a person that's in there for profits, market, and also to come out of this with some type of gain, not actual any loss. Their thought process is if they make a sitcom, there's this and this and this problem. There's this and this and this issue. And we don't want to go there because there's a chance there's more loss than gain. They're not actually it's the same thing with laugh tracks. It's like, oh, why do we need laugh tracks? Because people get more engaged.
Mhm.
We don't need laugh tracks. Yes, you do need laugh tracks. It's
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing that's a little off about Seinfeld and Friends is that there's not very much diversity, Like, I would say that there's not a lot of diversity in the people on the show. That would probably be the only thing that would be kinda like, it doesn't really hold up as much as it could. I try to think of, you know, do I remember any women of color in Friends at any point?
there are there are Ross did date somebody of color.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's like, the world was different as far as the variety and diversity of people that were in the interest industry and people that actually lived in the real world.
To be honest, I
Yeah,
feel like it was also a world where most people at the time didn't really give a fuck
they didn't
because
think about it.
we
Yeah.
like I- my parents are interracial and they came out of the 70s. By the time we got to the 90s, you got a person that was born in Taiwan, came here, met this beautiful black woman that was from the Caribbean, and they had kids. And there was so many of those people, so many
Mhm.
interracial couples. It was just not normal, to the point where like no one cared. No one gave a fuck. It's just like
Mhm.
we all lived our life. Yeah, people would get upset if you made homophobic remarks or was completely racist against somebody that was black or Hispanic or Asian. Yeah, of course, like we would stand up and do something about it. But I feel now the personally, it's where we spent so much time locked up and being able to like be bored out of our minds where we have to hear everything around us, know everything that's coming at every direction. Now we just become like a container of jello. That's what we are. We're
Well,
just
even
jello.
because we've been like shot at in so many directions by so much stuff that it kinda just, like, gets, like, shook up into, like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see that. I think that it makes it a little bit harder for someone to figure out who they are. Yeah, I mean, like, people figure out who they are by interacting with people in person, making decisions, making steps, trying stuff, whatever. The internet doesn't exactly take a lot of initiative. And so if you're not putting that initiative out, then like you're not really going to develop who you are. Like for us, we're utilizing the internet, but we already know who we are, and so we can broadcast who we are and what we believe and like stuff like that. But I feel like for a younger generation, it could be a little muffling to like it might not help you figure out who you are.
I
I don't know.
I
I didn't have that influence as a child.
I believe that every single person should have the right to be able to enjoy the things that they love within reason. And at the same time it goes with TV and movies and plays and just entertainment in general. To stop making a type of genre, to stop creating the type of things that we enjoy. And it's not just about, back in the day. There's something magical about how these films were made, how they brought us together. Um, you know, and more than that, where if you don't like something, you don't have to watch it. You don't have to click on it. See, that's the issue.
And
It's
there's a lot of variety.
Again, the problem also is, and nothing against somebody that has a business approach. I've had people on the podcast that are very business focused. I think it's a great tool to have. But when you're making a movie, when you're making a TV show, to think of it of like, oh, profit. No, think of it as what type of audience is going to watch this? What can we do for the people that are going to watch this, that are going to enjoy this show? Why do you think Big Bang Theory is so popular and is so famous? Why do you think Friends was so successful and Seinfeld? They all implemented these tools because of the people that made them.
I feel like
Damn, that was a ramble.
no, it was good. I agree with you. I think that it can be harder to make a sitcom these days because sitcoms were supposed to be something that anyone could turn on. Any type of person could turn it on and watch it and enjoy it. But these days we have so many different types of people that it could be kind of hard to create a thing that the general public can all relate to. So it's like somehow Big Bang Theory had been successful for a long time and like still does. And it's like, okay, somehow that still appeals to like a wide variety of people. But I feel what I'm saying is that a sitcom is kinda hard because there's so many different types of people, it's hard to make a show that's gonna just work for everybody, you
Right. And
know?
it also ties into like rom-coms, because there are some rom-coms that are so good. They're so good. But then there's a ton that are terrible.
Mm,
Terrible. I mean, god awful. That's the thing. It's like a hit and miss. When you're dealing with comedy,
it can be bad. There was one
it
that I
goes either
watched
way.
recently that was so bad, it was a movie with, like, Luke Will no, Oak Owen Wilson and J-Lo, and it was some movie about, like, getting married, and she was, like, some famous. Oh, it was bad.
Oh my god.
It was so bad. Like, it was just like, oh, none of it felt real. Everything about it, like, I was like, "I don't believe any of this could ever happen." And
It's like an
it's
Adam
like,
Sandler movie.
not even in, like, a fake kind of fun way, like, "This could never happen." No, it was just like, "This is ridiculous." Like, I don't know. Yeah, sometimes rom-coms can be really bad. I went and I saw the Barbie movie,
Never
and
saw it.
I
To
think
this day, I've never seen it.
if you can, I would go see it. It was pretty cool, honestly. I enjoyed it. It was pretty cool. I really like her. She's enjoyable to watch regardless of the whole Barbie thing or whatever. Margot Robbie is always I liked
I
Harley
I
Quinn.
I haven't seen it primarily because I just haven't had it on my mind. I really wanna see Oppenheimer as well. It's
I do
another
too.
movie.
I would love to see that. Yeah, I almost
Yeah,
thought about going the other day just cuz like I had some time to kill. And it's so hot, it's like, okay, well, just go in the cool movie theater and, watch the story. I love history, so I believe that I would really enjoy it.
I love stuff. I forgot there was a movie that came out. If you wanna Google this and figure out, which one this is. It was a movie that came out, um, it's about the group of women that helped the Apollo mission. A lot of people, well,
Oh, yeah,
most of.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, there were also, like, women of color that helped
Correct.
with
Yeah,
the
mathematicians
I
and
feel like that came
scientists.
out, like, 2014. I knew the
Something
makeup
around there.
artist that worked on it.
I think Taraji B. Henson was in there in that movie.
Somebody won, like, a big award for it. I don't know, but the hair and makeup on that movie was incredible because it was all, a period film, so all the hair was, like, done, like, accordingly, and
1960s.
there's some extremely intelligent women, like, and I'm really proud of the country that they
Hidden
utilized
Figures.
the intelligence of the women. But, yeah, I guess they were kinda hidden, like, they didn't really, like, talk about that the women were helping, like,
What
while it was happening. I
what
never
we
watched Hidden Figures. You watched the whole thing?
I watched the whole movie and it was, oh my god, it was absolutely incredible. And it just goes to show you that not only was the American government at the time so desperate, but they were so desperate to the point that they just gave in. They were like, okay. we need to be more inclusive over here. To the point that they had Nazis that were helping develop the Apollo mission. They had people of color that was helping the Apollo mission. They had women that was helping the Apollo mission. They had all of these different types of people. And that's how they made it a success. And that's why it's in many ways hidden, because they don't want to admit to the fact that they had to open themselves up. Because what are we just talking about? Like with sitcoms today, there's just such a diverse amount of people.
But
Different,
I mean,
yeah.
that, to me, that was always the definition of America, was like tons of different types of people all working together. Like, because that doesn't happen elsewhere. I mean, I definitely don't want any Nazis ever working on anything. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm saying like
But the
lots
positive
of
note,
different types of people working together for one, it unifies people, I guess is what I'm saying.
yeah, I mean, also with the whole Nazi thing, look, these were horrible, disgusting people that did atrocities.
Yeah, it's
But,
absolutely fucked up.
but kind of the double edge of the sword. It's where look how this person that murdered people was put into this position where not only did they have to make this mission a success, but this mission meant not only our future, but also where we was as a country. Like it was the ultimate punishment for somebody that did the cruelest punishment to others. It's
It sometimes
yeah,
surprises me, and I also not at all, but
makes
I
sense.
I guess there's a part of me that thinks like, "God, that coulda happened." Like, and I think everybody thinks that about, like, the Nazis or whatever, at one point or another where you're like, "Man, that coulda what if they woulda, like, done what they wanted to do?" Like, that's terrifying, you know? And there's a part of me that still thinks that somebody might try to do that someday. Like,
Well,
somebody might try to force
right.
everyone to be exactly the same under one big ass world government.
We're
Like,
doing that
that's what
right
I'm
now.
talking about, is that it's a really scary thought to think
We're
that someone could erase all the diversity across the whole world and make everyone follow one big rule. That's terrifying to
yeah,
me.
I mean,
Like,
to be honest, the American government isn't very far from that, to be honest with you,
they wanna
because
control
they
everyone.
wanna
But
control everything. They control most of the they are here's the thing, though, the American government is the largest government ever, ever in human history as far as we know. They're the largest, the biggest. So we are right now in the biggest empire ever to exist. Crazy.
mm. Yeah, that is crazy. There was, like, a moment there where the French started, like, owning all kinds of shit and making all these territories everywhere and, like, going nuts, and
The,
then they went
English.
downhill from helping us. They didn't go downhill, but I mean, like, they stopped, conquering, I
Look,
guess.
we may get flagged for this, but it's okay. I think that in the as a country, the
We
more that
like flags,
we love
okay?
flags, we love red flags, X marks, like
Yeah.
canceled.
Fuck the police. No, I'm
Fuck
just
the police.
kidding. Go on.
No, we love you guys in blue
To the
and
man.
girls. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
but
we support. We
no,
love
we
people,
just,
okay? Whether you're a cop or not. I like people. Okay, so
but anyway, what
I do
was?
not support brutality,
Oh my
okay?
god.
Alright, go on. We're leaving the subject.
What were we talking about? We were talking
The
about.
fear of, like, one
Oh,
giant government taking
yes,
over the world.
yeah. So what
It's
was it?
scary.
Oh my, it's really so the Ameri- So we as an American government and us as Americans living in this country. Okay, when we go back in time to the 1930s, and you ask yourself, how is that possible? How do you get intelligent scientists and doctors and all of these people to get to this point where they have no problem literally murdering children? So the way I look at
Uh, yeah,
the way,
I kinda feel like some of them did it to not be murdered themselves.
but
Like, people act like that
But
Like,
here's the here's the craziest thing that I never thought about until like I was listening to a podcast and I heard this. They basically heard the cry of, okay, the problem is the Jews. Okay? So we blame everything on something else. It's weird. We don't take any of the blame and do any of the fixing on ourselves. We put the blame on something else. Oh my God. Who's doing that right now? Us as a
so
country.
who are we putting the blame, is it me or is it the
Russia.
government?
Russia.
They're
We
blaming everything on
They're blaming
Russia?
everything on Russia and
I see, I don't
China.
pay attention. I don't
I
know
don't
what the
pay
fuck's
attention
going
I don't
on.
pay attention to this stuff either, but what I'm trying to say is,
Oh, the Ukraine thing?
yeah, what I'm trying to say is when it comes to like culture, okay? When I look at Russian culture and I see Russian entertainment and I see Russian movies and, Russian music, I don't give a shit about Russians thinking about their beliefs and communist whatever. I don't care.
Well, the Russian people are different than the
It's
Russian
all
government.
Exactly. That's
That's
the
2 different,
two
because
different
I
things.
am not my government. I am a
Correct.
person, and so, like, those people, they're not responsible for what their government does, and even the Russian soldiers, I guess, are forced into doing things that they don't wanna do, I've heard. I'm not gonna quote that, but that's what I've heard,
I've heard that too. Yeah,
you know?
we're not going to
And
quote that.
it's I don't n well, I mean, I'm not quoting it, I'm not saying that it's for sure fact, it's what I've heard, and so when you hear things
Right.
like that, that's terrifying. I mean,
It is.
I don't know, I
But that's what
it's
I'm
such
trying
a
to.
big country, lots of people, man, like.
But that's what I was trying to bring up with is when you separate that where we're saying like the United States is the largest government that's ever existed, but it's also the largest government that is the most divided by its people because we are we are more ourselves as people of this country than the government is representing us. We take better care of ourselves. We take better care of our communities. We take better care simply by the fact that we have realized not only now, but years prior, that the only way that we can make a difference, the only way that we can do things our way is if we do things our way. You know, Going back to the whole thing with entertainment, the whole shift, the whole reason why things are changing is a lot of people are realizing we want to be successful as artists. We got to stop looking up to the man and asking for the paycheck because they ain't coming. They ain't
Yeah.
coming.
I mean, like, I've lived in places where the people don't take care of the community, and they don't take care of the people around them, and there is no, what is that word?
Divide
No, comrade.
calmness,
No, like, with
camaraderie. Oh,
people
camaraderie,
camaraderie, yeah, there is none.
camaraderie.
It's not there, like, I've lived there where,
Poof.
yeah, there's no camaraderie, there's no, like, "We work together." It's like, "Get the fuck out of my way." Like, that's
Jesus.
where I've lived before, and it's like, I I imagine it's desperation that makes people act that way. People get really low on their resources and their needs aren't met. People start to fight against each other for what they need. Yeah, unfortunately, when it comes down to it, a lot of people won't save another person for their and risk themselves. A lot of people will just say, like, fuck you, you're on your own. Like, I'm trying to live, And I mean, for me, I wasn't raised that way, but unfortunately, like, it's almost like viewed as a weakness these days to like care about other people.
You
I don't know.
see,
I
you
think it takes a
see,
lot of bravery to do the right thing.
you just answered your question you asked earlier about why aren't sitcoms being made the way that they used to, and I think you just answered that question. I think it's because not all people, but many people, when they watch these sitcoms, they're like, "This is not real. Life isn't this happy." Things like
Yeah,
this.
people want to watch like this like chaos and like
There you go. Right.
insanity. And
Yes.
I listened to some therapist or whatever explain
Okay.
that, like, And I think I talked about this on another podcast,
Well,
but
we talked about this
where
before.
the therapist said that people watch the stuff at home because it makes them feel calm. So,
You
like,
sent me a video. I
so
remember this.
yeah,
You sent
something
me a
that, like,
video. Yeah.
people who grow up in chaos in their home, or, whatever, like, they turn on a chaos show when they're older in order to feel, normal. Like, it's like a stimulation that they're trying to get back, and they can find that stimulation by watching, a show with a bunch of chaos or something like that. And so I don't know if that has a whole lot to do with it, but it does seem like people wanna watch something dark and dramatic and broody and, like, big, like, craziness and, like, I mean, that I don't know.
Well, remember we came
It's
out
not why
of
I watch TV,
well,
but
remember we came out of the pandemic, and look, I've talked about this many times, and I'm not going to go into great detail. I came out of the pandemic of leaving New York to Florida and no father. That's how I left the pandemic. There are people that left the pandemic with mental breaks, people with broken relationships, and not trying to be a negative Nancy, but just being real that our thinking has dramatically changed as people living in the United States has shifted. We see things very differently than we did in 2019 because of what we
yeah.
went through.
Well, I remember after 9/11.
Very patriotic.
No, I mean, I would say for a good, like, 2 or 3 weeks, I
Okay.
couldn't watch anything on TV that was, like, fictional and was, like, like, where people would die. Like, I couldn't watch, like, a action movie. Like, for, like, the stupidest example, I could not watch The Terminator. It felt terrible because, like, people had been, like, killed and murdered, and then here I am watching it for entertainment, and it was such a disgusting feeling that it wasn't even, like, a conscious, like, "I don't wanna watch this." It was like, I don't know, and so I know that part of the reason that we watch that stuff is because we are so far removed from it. And it's like a entertainment, and that if we lived in any form of chaos somewhat like that, it would not be entertainment. Like, for some reason, we as people crave this type of entertainment because we live in such a subdued kind of, even calm type situation.
Au contraire.
'Cause when it happened, it it was I could not watch someone be shot
Yeah, but
or
look at it
die
now.
on TV. It was
Look
so hard.
look
But,
at it now.
like I said, it took about 3 weeks, maybe a month for everybody to become, like, callous again.
Well, it basically turns in now to just a memorial parade. That's pretty much what it is. And it's kind of interesting because the pandemic was longer than 9/11, way longer than 9/11. But the amount of bullshit and crap that went on in that year alone, and still, it for me, it baffles the crap out of me and how people are able to say and think the way that they do. And I can understand it because, like we've been talking, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. The same way, like you explained, when you're watching people flying out of a 100-story skyscraper like birds falling out of the sky.
Yeah, there was something about the fact that we had seen it on the
Oh my
television.
God.
Like,
It's horrifying. I've
because,
seen it.
like, it didn't look real. It looked like a video game or a movie when they showed it to us on the TV. So then, like, it was kind of, like, disorienting to think, like, some of the things on the TV are real and some of them aren't. It just became, like, really confusing. I was also, like, a child, so, like, that could have something to do with it, but I remember adults kind of having, like, the same feeling where it was like, because those things are being delivered between through the same exact television, it was, like, really weird, and it wasn't I don't know, it wasn't just news. Like, it was just like a live stream of what was happening, you know? It was absolutely crazy and horrible, and I don't know, I wish that it made people think more, but I guess we're all like goldfish. We just forget.
In a bowl. Yeah. It it's weird because history has a way of constantly repeating itself. And honestly, all it takes is 80% of people saying enough is enough. All it takes is for the entertainment industry to just push just a little too much for people to retaliate. And again, I feel that we are a lot stronger than we think we are, because as artists and creators, we've had the power of entertaining people for over 100 years.
Hmm.
That's what we do, and that's what they do best.
Hmm.
Sorry, I sound like a TV anchor.
No,
Good
I mean, like,
morning. Welcome to MNBC. Good
what I was
morning,
talking to
America.
you about today was like, how detrimental it is to make comparisons. And then I found that little picture that I sent you about like how comparing things kills creativity, and it's just like everything is so different. So like it doesn't really make sense for me to sit here and compare a sitcom to like the other things and like yeah, I
No,
don't know.
no,
Comparisons kill creativity, I
we're,
guess is what
we're
I'm
not,
saying.
we're not, I don't think it's comparison. I think it's more of relatability, you know, because they were made. Those were the sitcoms that were made. And everything is relatable to something else. The same way that a Western that was made in the 1950s may be very different than a Western that's made now. But they're both Westerns. And if that one
Yeah.
didn't happen in the 50s, the one that came out in 2019 probably wouldn't have happened. You see what
Hmm.
I'm saying? Everything has to happen with the other thing happening before.
No, they were like Italian filmmakers that made westerns. They call them spaghetti westerns.
Hmm. They're
And
good,
that was like a big thing there for a minute.
especially
I
ones that
don't
are.
know. I feel so passionate about the subject that like I almost have so many thoughts coming into my head that I can't like form one to put into words. Like that's like where I keep like kind of like blanking out and being like uh, uh, because like there's like so many things going through my head with like that whole just thinking about how the industry is changing and
I'm
you
happy for
know
it. I'm really happy for it. And people are, people are really terrified of, like, especially changes with artificial intelligence, and just the way that computer technology has been advancedly changing. But I really believe that a lot of this will benefit the artist in the long run. The same way that when computers became the ultimate tool for artists, look at Pixar animations, which came out in the 90s. With the
yeah.
help, they were able to revolutionize the way that artists are able to create visual effects. I love that. I love when technology is kind of infused with artists. You see that throughout history with cars, computers, books, television shows, movies, music.
Yeah, the design of things.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, cause like, they always want designers. Like, I mean, for example, there's, like, a costume creator that created, like, all of Barbie's costumes, like, the doll, like,
Uh-huh.
over time. She just created, like, all those costumes, you know? I mean, like, yeah, look at architects. Like, buildings are something that, it's a necessity. You need shelter, whatever. Then you have an
Architects
architect,
are
and
they're
they
artists.
sometimes they just make regular buildings. Sometimes they make something exceptional. Like my favorite Frank Lloyd Wright, and it's like, yeah, that's art. So it's like once you can overpass the necessity and turn it into something of like beautiful creativity, it's pretty cool. Cause I mean, like, think about what device we have right now. We basically have like a recording phone with video, that's what we're using right now. And the necessity would be like if you and I really had to like relay messages back and forth to each other for like survival or something. But now we're using this thing for fun and we get to be creative with it, and like create. Same with like my candles. Candles are no longer for light, so I get to be much more creative with them, like it's more about the joy in it than it is like the necessity. And I mean, like, that's the other thing. A television is not made just to relay messages and inform people, it's made for entertainment as well. It grows on itself, you know?
Things have progressively changed, and I think you can not only see that change, like you mentioned, and how now it can be used for something else, but we're okay. So we know this because I'm old enough to remember this. This smartphone used to be for us like 5 or 6 devices, right? We had an iPod. We had a TV because you couldn't watch. No one watched a movie on their phone. What the?
Absolutely not. I remember we used to buy these little, like, DVD, like, screen things, and you'd, like, put the CD in it, and
And
it'd, like,
yeah,
play the movie, and
yeah.
if it bounced, the movie would, like,
You had to
skip.
hold it. Yeah, you had to like hold it real still. But
Yeah. You had to
so
carry all your DVDs with
uh,
you.
and you had it on your sun visor, like it was just like hanging on there, or
Oh, that's the CD player. Yeah.
but
Yeah, okay, so go on.
but when but that's how it was for us. And then as time progressed, it turned into just this.
Well, yeah, because you had a camera, you had an iPad, you had a television,
I Yeah.
whatever you were gonna use to message people, so you had, like, a pen and paper and a stamp and a letter. Like, it's like, you had all these different things, and now it's all put into that.
Yeah, we never like text messages were very short because you have to be very careful of how you use them. And that's the thing is everything has evolved and progressed over time. And I think that also applies with how stories are being told and on how sitcoms can be made because now you can be really fun with a sitcom. Like you let's just say, okay, I'm going to give you a great example. Let's just say you want to make a sci-fi sitcom, okay, that in somewhat way is like a mixture of like a Star Trek parody, okay? Back in the day it would be really awfully cheesy and like clunky. Today's days, you can make a low budget sci-fi movie like that and it could be pretty good quality.
Yeah, I know. I watched this movie with my dad that came out of, like, Finland or New Zealand or something like that, and it was like a sci-fi kinda like alien zombie movie, and, like, the movie itself, like, really kinda low quality, like, really low production value, like, all that stuff, but man, the zombie fight at the end kicked ass.
Ooh,
Like,
I love
I
a
was
zombie
like,
fight.
"Holy
Yes.
shit." Like, it was like, and I mean, they made that thing real low budget, just a small production company, like, and enough people caught on to it that it got dubbed into other languages, and, like, that's something that, my neighbor was telling me. I guess there was, like, a producer for Kiss, and he said that
The band?
eventually, yeah,
Okay.
eventually everybody would, be able to make, their own music and own movies. And he said that, record companies would cease to exist because everything would be independent artists making their own things because of the change in technology. Everyone would have access to the things that they need in order to make movies.
Well,
I mean, it's going to continue to change.
it's one of the biggest problems right now, especially with the record industry, because of the advancement and change of technology. A lot of artists are going towards independent records. Reason
Mhm.
is they heavily involve in social media and promotion and marketing. You might say, well, they do the same, like you go to Sony or Warner Brothers. Problem is they make you sign these really horrible contracts and sometimes it's not the best benefit. Where some of these artists were like, "I can go with this independent. I may not be famous. I may have a little bit of a harder time, but I get a paycheck. I may be able to go tour. They may be able to find me a tour schedule. Hey, there's all of these added benefits that did not exist for artists 20 years ago.
No,
You know,
they, like, own all their music.
they own all their music, they own all their rights. Like, it's a very different world we're living in. And in many ways, it's a benefit. Like, fucking A, finally, artists are able to be in control for once.
But you have to think, how does that affect our economy, right?
Yeah.
But it's like it's okay because, like, it needs to happen where we don't have giant corporations in charge of everything, but at the same time, the giant corporations make the country a lot of money. My mother's like a Disney hater.
I don't blame her.
She and, I always tell her, I'm like, "You can pray for Disney to collapse, but that's not gonna be good for America." And in my opinion, like, I don't really know, I've never ran any numbers or anything like that, but I'm thinking that Disney brings a lot of money in for the
Well,
country.
they
I
they
don't know.
they own a very large part of television and production, such as NBC and ESPN, as
Yeah, I
well
have
as
a hard
others.
time believing that Disney doesn't collab with the government in some type of way.
It's also the same thing with Apple. Where Apple is a really large conglomerate and they do a lot of shady things in other countries such as China, but they are a technology company, a software development company on top of that more than anything.
What
And
shady shit did they do in China? You had me at China.
so one of the biggest problems with companies that are making these technologies is they're getting these rare earth minerals from these mines in other countries such as in Africa and in Asia, where they're in very very poor conditions. And then on top of that, production for these products are done in these facilities in China where they have to have netting, because otherwise people jump out and try to commit suicide. So they have netting that go
I've heard
around.
about that because, like, they don't have any life outside of their work.
No, it's 12 hours 6 days a week.
All they do is work, they don't even have homes. I know, it's a nightmare. It's like a personal hell. And, like I saw a thing where, like, it showed, like, a wedding where, like, 5 people, well, 6 people all got married at once, and they marry people in the factory, and that's just, like, their whole life is, like, they just live in that factory. People don't own their own homes or, like, anything, and it's
But
you were saying, like, they
yeah.
take all the resources from, like, countries and stuff like that. That's a raider. They're raiding like, they're stealing the jewels of other countries and then making money off of them. Like,
Well, this
that's
is this is one of the big
barbaric in my
th-
opinion.
this is one of the biggest problems with, like, especially electric cars. And I'm going to say this right now. I am a big supporter of fully aspirated natural engines, loud. I want it to pour the emissions as much as possible. Like, if it pollutes the earth, hell to the fucking. No, I'm kidding. But all seriousness, the biggest problem that you have with these, especially batteries, they're coming from these rare earth minerals that you have 14,000 people that are in these caves. They have children on their backs. They're working like 13, 14 hours to pull out the cobalt so you can be able to use your phone, be able to
I
turn on your
know,
Tesla.
and I'm staring at an Apple logo right
Right
now,
now, same here.
and it's just like, I feel terrible about it, but I don't know what to do. I've already got
But
the
it
Apple
does
computer.
look, it does benefit. So for example, one of the biggest things that Apple has done is Apple TV. And Apple TV, especially Apple TV Plus, has a plethora of independent filmmakers, film companies that make a ton of TV shows you watch on Apple TV. So, primarily, Apple TV's platform is independent artist. Like, I went through Apple TV Plus when I was bored. I was like, oh my God, there's just tons, tons. So that's one thing that they have done. Another thing that they have done was, for example, with the iPad. The iPad has absolutely revolutionized the industry for tattoo artists, for bakers, for example, people that work in the food industry, that are artists, like, 5-star Michelin star restaurants. They're able to use their technology and resources because of
Yeah,
it.
my stupid ex-boyfriend with my old iPad.
So there's all of these things that Apple has done that has been able to benefit many, many, many people. I like to look at that where, yeah, there is a lot of negative that this company does, but there's also a lot of positive things that this company has done, not only to benefit us, but to benefit our artistic
I know,
needs.
but they don't need to be taking other people's
I know that.
resources.
I know. I know. It
Like,
sucks. I know.
why can't they find a different way to do things? I mean, that happened. Like, I learned all that stuff about the textile companies. They screw up the water around the whole rest of the world because they're not allowed to do it here. And it's just like, I need to find ways to balance out the decisions that I make. Like, I need to find ways to give back to people and like stuff like that. Like, I definitely want to do more research and like, I was like figure that out. But
Well, one of the biggest issues, we don't do a lot of things here in this country, and
for other people.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're constantly exporting things out to other countries. Like, to be honest, I'm very proud when I'm able to buy something that says "Made in America." I would spend an additional amount of money to buy something that's made in America. I feel a lot of people will back me up on this. I would way more prefer that. The thing is, with these resources, number one, a lot of them are national parks, so they're under that protection. Number two, the other problem is that these companies are more about profits than realizing, okay, let's lessen our profits, make better quality, it's higher in profits, but people will be making more money, and they'll be able to easily be able to more afford things. See, this was a philosophy in the 1960s. The philosophy in the 1960s was a very strong suit of, look, we want you to be successful. We want you to be able to afford a nice car. Buick, Mercury. Give you another examples. The whole idea of supermarkets. Why do these things? A lot of these things that started popping up happened because we as people, we started to realize, especially in this country, we may not be famous. We may not be super successful. But you know what? I know that I can go to my local store. They got stuff coming in from North Carolina, South Carolina. And I'm able to live a decent life
Yeah.
right in the middle.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist. It hasn't existed in this country for over 40 years.
Well, I try to think like, okay, so if all of the people that we're talking about in China in the factory where they want to kill themselves, if that factory didn't exist, where would they be? Like, I think there's some
I don't
people
think
that would argue,
that's not our business.
no, it's not our
It's
business.
not our
That's a good
business.
point too.
Yeah.
But I think there would be people who would argue like, "Oh, we provide work for those people." And it's like, people will figure stuff out. Like, you don't need America showing up and creating work for somebody like that. And I think the way that the people in the factories are responding kind of shows that like it's not beneficial for America to go over there and create that job that they created if people are trying to kill themselves because of it. Like, it's just eh.
I know you don't like talking about this, but this is a really good example, and I have some knowledge on this.
There's something I don't like talking about.
It's with the auto industry. It's with the auto industry. When when you talk to somebody that is familiar with the automotive industry, right? Especially here in the US, a lot of stuff is outsourced, like processors, chips, wiring, parts, metal components that can all be easily made here in the States, but isn't. And, well, cost, and, Americans, and it's too expensive. Look, I've seen the craftsmanship of technicians and work of people here in the United States that work in the automotive industry that are Americans, and their work is beautiful. They know what they're
Mm.
doing because they know their job. Look, it's not the 1960s anymore, people. Okay? If you put a bunch of Americans in Flint, Michigan, or in Iowa, you put them in a factory and you had them building cars and they had a certificate and they were licensed. It's a clean facility. You got surveillance. You have everything under control. Of course, there's always going to be
Things built with integrity.
correct. Guaranteed, that would be a good, reliable car. Easily, you're able to put that car up to a Japanese car and say, okay, reliability wise. But the problem is now, you say, oh, American cars are not built the way. You know how many American factories here in the United States, when they're building cars, their parts are from China and India and Pakistan? It's like their whole warehouse is international. They might as well just fucking label it DHL because that's what it is. It's DHL.
I didn't even know what DHL was until I moved to California.
Yeah, it
and I think that says something. The difference between like the Midwest and California is like, I feel like that's kind of where a lot of all that importing lifestyle, like, but it's a coast, so it makes sense.
But the interesting thing is, we can become a more reliant on ourselves as a country. We can. In the entertainment industry, in the automotive industry, and so many other, even healthcare and so many others. But again, it's creating less profits and more quality.
Can you imagine it the other way around? Like if China opened up a factory here and made all of us work in it, like, and it like just picture it like completely reversed, and like they're like totally like reaping all the benefits and like their whole,
I love where this conversation is going, by the way.
Come on, yes. Like try and like put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Right.
Like that's just absolutely insane. Like, and I mean, it kind of reminds me of like, the way the Native Americans were treated. And it's like, it's a land that doesn't belong to them. And to be honest, that's what this place was too. And it's like, it just...
all land is stolen. All land is stolen.
Yeah, it's icky. I don't know.
But it's
one of these days we'll have an episode where all we do is talk about happy things.
In a parallel universe on the other side of Mars.
I'm in the parallel universe.
Whoa. Okay. So this is Carissa version number 2, ladies and gents. It's not just... I don't know where we're going with this. I have no idea. I lost complete track.
No, you're good. We should wrap it up. My dad wants me to move my car.
Oh, damn. All right. Well, this has been great. This has been fun. Carissa, you got any things you want to
add on? Thank you for listening today. I really, really appreciate having the podcast. So I really appreciate everyone who listens. Thank you for going on this journey to Carissa and Dave land, getting lost with us in the groove.
In American groove. And, the best way you can support the channel is leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, which you can do. And if you want to find the podcast, you know where to find us. We're at Lost in the Groove Pod. We're everywhere. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. All right. We love you. See you later. Adios.
Love you.
Bye. Ah!
I'm sorry.